All right, I am here today with Rachel Mazza. Rachel is an expert in business operations, hiring, marketing, and scaling. Over the past 10 years, she has helped visionary business owners to scale their companies, all while stepping out of the day-to-day operations. Whether it's about creating profitable offers, streamlining systems and teamwork, or increasing revenue with powerful sales funnels, Rachel helps entrepreneurs get the vision out of their head into the real world and in front of their best customers in order for them to have more growth and freedom. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks, Mike. Feel like we've done a couple of those things together.
Yeah. Um, well, cool. I'm really excited to talk to you today and kind of dig into your background. I know we've caught up a little while, but there's so much of your story I don't know yet. So yeah, maybe tell me a little bit about your background and kind of how you fell into marketing, and we'll also talk about how that evolved over time as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, like you, I am a avid traveler. Ran away from home at a young age of 19 and just started figuring out ways to kind of work my way around the world. And marketing just was really natural for me. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. My mom was like one of the top selling Avon ladies in her region. And always just, there was always some sort of hustle happening at my house. So it was a really easy transition for me. And you didn't really need any qualifications. So I was like, we can figure this out. So I ended up landing in Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is a big hub for internet entrepreneurs and online business. And at the time, it was like just getting going. So people were still figuring out like, what's this SEO thing? And like drop shipping wasn't even a thing yet, right? So people are still very much exploring the wild west of internet marketing. And I just like sat in the right cafes and was obnoxious about asking questions and just was very fortunate to kind of fall in with a group that was moving fast and doing big stuff. And so gleaned as much as I could from that and eventually found my way to copy, which kind of kickstarted my love of direct response and marketing and funnel building and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny how you and me had connected online, and then the very first time we ran into each other was in a chicken place in Chiang Mai, right?
In Thailand, yeah, like we met
Yeah, Trung
years
Doi.
before in
Yeah,
online community and talked like
yeah,
marketing and stuff. And then
yeah,
met in Crispy Chicken, as it's lovingly called, in
yeah,
Thailand like years later. But it's a good
yeah,
place to meet up. It's a good
yeah,
place.
yeah. That place was so good. I ate there so many times when I was there.
I dream
Yeah.
about it all the time.
Yeah, cool. Um, so, yeah, like you said, you found copy, and that was kind of my starting point as well, in the online, internet marketing world. Um, in terms of like getting a good amount of momentum.
Yep.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about that transition from copywriter to now, you're like a very big picture person, who can handle, that the vision, the operations, the details,
Yep.
the systems, not just the copy, but almost a, full picture business um, approach. Where did that transition happen and how did it happen?
Yeah, it's funny because when I started copywriting, I realized that I didn't know what copywriting was and I didn't know like what the terms were or anything, right? And so I had been doing a lot of these things naturally, just as like someone who's has a natural affinity for sales and people, really, right? Like connecting with people. And
And let me jump in there. I should
yeah,
say, just because there may be people watching where, they don't know what copywriting is, we're not talking about the, copyright law that lawyers do, but salesmanship through
yep,
writing, yeah. So sorry. I just
yeah.
wanted to jump in there to make that clear.
Writing words that sell stuff.
Yeah.
That's the easy way
Yeah.
to put it. That's what I tell my grandma. I write
That's
words
good.
that sell stuff to grandma. Um, Yeah, and it was just like that natural connection for people makes me naturally intuitive, right? Like I look at someone and I can ask good questions, and that's the foundation of copy, right? Is curiosity, asking good questions, making personal connections with people, and then it's like very sprinkling of sales psychology to kind of tie it all together, right? And through that, I'm able to kind of find the gaps in people's businesses. And despite my best efforts, I can't help but fill the gaps. And so I would find myself often working with clients, and my job would be to like write the emails, right? And I'll be like, yeah, but these automations are terrible over here. And like, oh man, but how are we going to know who we're sending it to? So let's set up some segmentation tags. And like, oh man, like I'm selling this, but it's really like kind of a crappy offer. Like I feel like if we just tweaked this thing, then it would give people way more value and they'd stick around longer. And so I couldn't help filling the gaps that I saw in people's businesses and their funnels. And of course, lots of scrappy entrepreneurs, that's who I worked with originally, is like startups and people like really getting started, is everyone wears all the hats, right? And so I start filling the gaps on the team because I just had this wide range of skills. And eventually I had to say like, okay, we got to make this a thing because Rachel can't be paid as a copywriter and doing everything else. And so I kind of found my way to systems like Entrepreneurial Operating System and Run Like Clockwork by Adrian Dorison, and all these structures that just kind of gave templates and formats to start thinking about like, okay, so how do we systematically fill the gaps in people's businesses? And then better yet, work my way out of a job so that I don't have to do all that stuff forever. And that's kind of what kicked off what I call being a fractional integrator, which is a really jargony term from a system called EOS. And it's really like the CEO/COO, but kind of like with a foot in marketing. And it's just a big need for a lot of business owners who can't define kind of what's missing when their business is stalled or stuck.
Seems like almost like a you're just coming in and like whatever needs to get done, we're gonna get it done in a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, I always find myself that I'm the wartime general. So I come in when it's like wartime and I like come in and like fix everything. And then when it's peacetime, I'm like, all right, sweet, have fun. And I'm gonna go like play in another sandbox.
You just ride off it like a cowboy into the sunset.
Exactly.
Don't mention it.
Farewell, friends.
That's awesome. Well, I know, you talked about filling the gaps, and there's some specific things that you really like to do. Three big things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So for me personally, building things like truly lights me up. I love building stuff. And so that's very natural for kind of the gaps that I fill. So when I meet an entrepreneur, or it's like a founder or a visionary who's having trouble articulating their vision and getting people to implement their vision for them, usually when I meet those people, there's one of three gaps in the business. And it's either an offer is missing or broken. So maybe they've got an offer that is for a more advanced user in their niche, but they have no way to get new people who are just entering the market into their world and in a place where they're ready for their offer, right? So either there's an offer missing in their offer stack, or similar thing with their funnels. Like maybe there's like a break where they're not sure how to get people through their entire offer stack. So that's the first gap, is there's an offer missing or broken. The second one is there's team or systems missing and broken. So maybe they've got the wrong people in the wrong seats, or maybe they've got like systems that aren't serving them and they're just using them because that's the way they've always done it. And it's just like really clunky and balls keep dropping. Or the third one is the gap between them being able to step truly into that visionary founder role. And they're too much in the day-to-day. They're getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty. They're trying to like hold on to everything with a death grip, and everything's on fire all the time, and they need help stepping out and developing ways to trust their team and create that accountability without the micromanagement and the babysitting. So I come in and I figure out, all right, which gap is the most important right here? Do we have all of them? We got one of them. And then we just start with the most critical that's holding them back and causing the overwhelm and the burnout usually.
Yeah. And when business owners kind of find themselves in that role where they're like you said, everything's on fire, they're just trying to keep it all together.
Yep.
That's kind of the growth phase, like around 1 million to 5 million. Is that kind of that area that you find those owners in?
Yeah, I find the messiest. You would think that like when there's no money and that it would be the messiest, but that's not the case, because you just like figure stuff out, and also there's not like a whole lot of pressure from a lot of overhead or team and stuff. I find the absolute messiest for business owners is when they just sneak past that 1 million mark and they're between like 1 million and 3 million, because you've built this thing, right? This big machine, and it has a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people and a lot of more expense than when you're just like bootstrapping, right? But you're not quite there on revenue, where there's a lot of extra resources to invest in setting yourself up to scale to the next stage. So yeah, past that 1 million mark, the 1 to 3, that's where most people, I think, either burn out and just say, let's just burn it to the ground, or run out of cash and have to pivot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you've talked about how that they kind of are in the catch-22 in that moment, right? Where
Yeah.
could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of times, I work with a lot of marketers. Just I find that most people I meet, it's the founder is the person that was originally in the marketing seat. Very natural, right? Is like the person who started the business, knows the most about things, and so they're the salesperson, the marketer. They're driving the marketing a lot of times. Very rarely do I find someone who they've never dealt with the marketing and they're like ops and they can't let go of ops. It's usually always that the founder is like deeply entrenched in the marketing and they now need to grow beyond themselves. And so I think that's the hardest thing to let go of too, because often they're the face of the business. It's often their voice, it's their reputation. But eventually you do need to be able to step out and let other people come in and start driving that sort of thing. What do they say, that you can't read the label when you're in the bottle? It's that kind of thing, right? It's like you have to let people come in and grow it beyond you. And that's the hardest thing to do when it's your baby. And so that's where I come in and I say, okay, let's put some systems in place where if you were on a desert island and a plane flew over every day and dropped a report to you, on that report would be everything that you needed to know the business was healthy, everyone was happy, you were moving towards your goals, and you wouldn't have to jump on your boat and come home unless one of those things were really off base. And so we try to set up those systems and those success metrics so that they can feel confident stepping out and they feel confident that things are on track and that nothing's on fire. And it usually takes a while for them personally to be able to let go, but that's on them. Like, I can't help you. Like, I can coach you through it, but eventually, like, you got to find a hobby or something. You got to like go pick up the guitar or something to fill your time. Because we'll make it okay for you to step out for the business.
Yeah. It's funny. I was going to ask you, why do you think it's so hard for them to let go? But then you mentioned, it's their baby, so it sounds like it's a really big emotional thing for them, right?
Well, and also it's just habit as well. Like, there's a lot of founders and entrepreneurs who get to that mark, and for anywhere between 5, sometimes 10 years, that's all they've been doing. And they've almost like lost their identity of who they are outside the business. And that's like therapy stuff, right? And there's a lot of coaches that can help with that kind of stuff. And I try my best to as someone who's seen around the corner of that, like guide them to how to start exploring that. But it really is, it's like, who am I if I'm not, first of all, the person constantly steering the ship, but also who am I if I'm not like constantly cleaning up fires? And like, if you're someone who thrives in chaos or like thrives in a high pressure environment, when you remove that, it's almost like you're like lost and listless, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it's so important, right? Whether they're going to transition to, being more of just the owner that has the
Yeah.
high level view of everything, or they have a goal of selling or exiting the business. I think that emotional aspect of it is really
Yeah.
underrated.
And it's a maturity of leadership. It's like none of us are born leaders, right? And none of us are know how to be a great leader and how to be a mature leader. You have to learn that stuff, right? And so I've worked with visionaries who are really mature leaders, and they're so great to work with because they're patient and they will choose to allow certain things to break in the name of learning and improving. And then there's people that are immature leaders and they're like cannot let go for fear of something dropping. But the thing is, like, it's like a knife fight. You're gonna get cut. So like stuff is gonna break. You as the leader get to choose what you're gonna allow to break in the name of improvement. And there's a big difference, and it's kind of sitting with that and just watching and just like watching the train wreck and being like, it's okay. This was by design, so that we can move to the next stage.
That's really interesting. Is there any particular example of something that, they might let break in
Mm.
order to, to move towards long-term growth?
So it's like the cardinal sin, but like if you let an email go out with a broken link, no one's gonna die. Really sucks. Only do that once or twice before you like pull someone up and say like, we need to fix this now, right? But no one's gonna die. Same with like, unless you're in the middle of a big marketing launch or something really high pressure, it's okay if something goes out late. Like if you normally email your email list on a Sunday and it goes out on Tuesday because you found out that you don't have like really solid systems for writing, editing, review and approval, publishing, that's okay. What you say is like, what do we need to set up so that we're now ahead, right? And so those kinds of things you can let break. Stuff like someone sends a crappy customer service message that was very polite, but didn't like sell something, or like kind of left someone hanging a little bit. Like that sucks. Don't do that often, but those are the kind of things where people understand, right? Just remind them that there's humans on the other side of the screen when something screws up, and that we're just a small team, right? And we're here doing our best. And the one thing don't let break is like, you got to be able to accept money. That's the only thing. Like, don't screw with the money, but everything else is probably okay if it goes downhill for a very short amount of time.
It seems like those mistakes too, kind of, they're just revealing where you can improve. You know,
Exactly. The
it's
gap.
just a little notice. Yeah, the gaps, right?
Yep.
Um, you've also talked about, you said something interesting in the past, which is, um, you know, I wanted to expand on, which is almost every seat in many companies is a marketing seat, and how you have to straddle the line between, hey, we want to market and grow, but
Yeah.
we also need to make sure we have the operations in place to handle that growth. So how do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah. I think this is probably true for 99% of businesses, right? Like maybe there's some businesses out there where someone is like truly administrative or like not marketing related at all. But I would say most businesses, every seat, the person that you're interacting with, if they interact customer facing at all, if they're designing things, if they're building things, if they're putting things out to the public, they have an influence on how the company is perceived and how people find their way to the company or how they engage with the company, right? And so they all have to be thinking from a marketing perspective. If the customer service person is helping someone find their lost password, that's still a conversation that is opened one-on-one with a customer and is an opportunity to talk about an offer or something happening where they can go deeper with that customer, right? The tech guy, like there may be the guy that fixes a broken image on the website, but they need to understand about the user experience when they're doing that, right? Like they need to be able to recognize like if something else is could be interrupting the user experience. And so even stuff that doesn't necessarily feel like it might be a marketing seat, like if you had a physical brick and mortar, the janitor, he interacts with a lot of people because he's the one out on the floor, right? He's the one that's like seeing people and talking to people. If they have a bad experience with that guy, they're going to have a bad experience with your business. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's marketing. It's customer experience and reputation.
So when you are, you know, working with a company and you're, you know, interacting with team members who may not be in a directly, you know, related sales or marketing role, how do you kind of have those conversations, or you know, have the training to make sure that they kind of see that bigger picture?
Yeah, it's kind of just like copy, where when you're writing copy, your job is to find the guru or the visionary or the founder and kind of milk them for their story, their ideas, their subject matter expert, and then take that and translate it into something that can be easily understood, something that's repeatable, something that someone can take on and relate to, right? So same thing, if you've got a customer service person, even if they have zero sales experience, you can save canned responses, you can give them examples, you can have them shadow you while you do it. But if you can take things that have worked well in the past and then say like, here's how it worked and show them the principles behind it, you're going to help them start thinking in a different way. So someone may never have a really strong affinity for sales, but they can learn how to say like, oh, I saw that you have this problem. Have you checked out this piece of our business, right? They know how to connect the dots between referrals. It's just practice and attention. You can't just like throw someone into something and say, figure it out. If they're not hired for that kind of position, you got to spend the time with them. You got to give them your attention and make sure that they feel supported and that they can come to you.
Yeah, I love that. So let's imagine that, you know, there's a business owner watching this, you know, and maybe they are like resonating with everything you're saying right now, you know, like, yes, I'm in that, you know, 1 to 3 million, maybe 1 to 5 million sort of
Yeah.
range. I want to step out of the day to day. I want to learn to become a leader. I want to remove myself either to enjoy my business a lot more and get the freedom that I started this thing for in the first place, or they say, hey, I would love to exit this, you know, sooner rather than later and go on to the next project or retire, whatever it may be. Um, how do you work with people? You know, I know, you know, every business is a little different, situations are different, but how do you like to approach, you know, from the beginning, and how do you walk them through everything that they need to do?
Yeah. So first of all, asking really good questions and just observing. A lot of times, like I find that just listening in on team calls, you really identify where some of the issues might be. Um, I don't know the intimate details of someone's situation before I get into it with them, but I can almost guarantee it's a situation of bloat and that they need to remove things rather than add things. So almost every single person I've ever met in this space, right, that is in this 1 to 3 million space and has grown their business, they've added things to solve problems, right? Like, oh, this the payment gateway is broken, so let's add this plugin, or like these customers need something special for this new offer, so let's add this integration, or let's add this piece of software, or this team member because these guys are overloaded. And usually by the time I get there, there's just way too much bloat. So whether that's too many people on the team and you haven't like figured out exactly what the seats are that you need. So you've got like multiple people fill in partial roles, and like this person does like 6 or 7 roles, and then this person fills in the gaps because they're overwhelmed. Or it's something with the tech stack and it's like really like a tangled web of wires that you got to start like untangling and like straightening out, right? Or the systems, it's just like messy, no one's owning it, it's way too much complication, way too many moving parts. And so where I usually start is say like, where can we go back to basics? What did you do that got you here in its most simplest form? And do you just have too much? Are there too many offers? Are there too many systems? Are there too many people? So anytime you add like a system or a person, it's not like it adds like one more piece of complexity. It's like 7, right? Because you're adding one more person and they're connected to this person and this person and this person and this system. And so it's not like once you start removing pieces, things get real simple, real fast. And then you get clarity because you can see what you need, how things are, where things went wrong, and how you can go back to basics so that you can start fresh and make it clean with all your now evolved knowledge and experience and battle scars.
It's so counterintuitive. You would think that, okay, we're growing, we're bigger, we need to have more stuff, when really it's about having less stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to add more stuff, but very rarely do you need to add more stuff. Usually it's taking something away and doubling down on what's working. Humans love to complicate stuff and they love to like shiny object and more and more and more. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like one of my clients, she had several multi-million-dollar revenue sources that she just cut off because she realized that if she could double down on the 3 or 4 most important like flagship products that she had, she could scale way higher than trying to spread all of her resources across 6 different offers. So that's a painful, you got to like really believe in what you're selling. You really believe in your plan and your audience to just cut off that revenue. But she scaled her business beyond imagination just by simplifying and really focusing on those few key offers that she knew were blockbusters.
Yeah, that's a really important point. That's um curious a little bit about, you talked about, not only, if the systems are a little wonky, but also there's not much ownership over the result from the team members.
Yeah.
How do you help a business owner, when you're helping them become better leaders, getting people excited, motivated, happy, taking ownership of the result? How do you get them to work with their team in order to have them have that ownership sort of mentality?
This is the most important piece, and it's the hardest piece, and it's the most frustrating. I call it the people puzzle, and it's a really tough nut to crack, because usually what's happened is you have great people, or they were great at one point in time, and they've either gotten burned out or jaded, or they're feeling micromanaged, and it's like they've lost their way, right? So usually it's one or two things. Either you've got the wrong people in the right seats, and you need to say like, hey, thanks for getting us here. Where we're going, you're not the best fit for. And sometimes you do need to have someone fresh come in, or you need to figure out how you can take those people and get them excited again. And usually it's counterintuitively adding expectations. It's like clarifying, like, here's what I expect of you. Here's how we're going to measure success. Here's exactly what you own. And it sounds like you're like harnessing them with responsibility, right? But what it really does is create clarity. So now they know exactly what they need to do, exactly what level they're supposed to do it. And they get to let go of everything else. You're saying, this is your seat, this is your lane. Trust me and everyone else to handle all this other stuff. this is where you live, just obsess over this. And so by creating that structure of saying like, this is your seat and here's what's in it and how we measure success, it actually creates a lot more freedom and removes a lot of stress, because they're not trying to like be everywhere all the time and like worry about like what they're responsible for. They just get to focus on what they're doing, right? So that makes a big difference. And then also empowering them to feel agency over that seat. So encouraging them to bring issues to you when things are wrong, encouraging them to bring like, hey, loop us in, what's going on from your seat, listening to them and really valuing their perspective, because now you've like assigned them that seat. So now they're the ones sitting in it and you got to hear how things are going over there. Just empowering them to bring those conversations and saying like, I want to hear about it. So they're not afraid to bring issues to you. That's going to be a game changer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's, it seems like that clarity is just the most important piece. Like, because, without the clarity, you're
Yeah.
kind of floundering a little bit.
Well, and most people want to do a great job. Most people are trying their best. And it's when there's lack of clarity that they either just get like discouraged or demotivated, or they just get completely overwhelmed and burned out because they're just trying to do everything to try and figure out how to please you or how to do it right.
Yeah. Um, another maybe piece of that, the people puzzle, as you put it, is the increase of trust between the owners and the people working.
Yeah.
How do you get as a leader of the company, how do you help the owner increase that amount of trust that they have with their team?
Yeah, putting structure in place where the owner isn't the one who has to have all the answers all the time. So I take different pieces of structure from different systems. And one thing I really love from the EOS system, which is the entrepreneurial operating system, it's just like one way to run a business, is they've got these weekly team meetings they call level 10 meetings. And they've got a couple different pieces of this meeting agenda that just creates accountability, empowers people, creates clarity and transparency. And it's things like every single week, everyone brings a headline from their seat. So like, here's what I'm seeing over the past week from my seat. I want to loop you guys in. And then they create a scorecard, which is like, these are the metrics we're trying to hit. Each one of us owns just one metric. Like, here's what we're hitting. Are you hitting it or not? Right? It's very black and white. Are we doing it or are we not? There's no explanation, right? There's a to-do list on there. Like, here's what we said we would do in this meeting last week. Did you do it? Yes or no? Again, really clean cut. It's not like, oh, well, this came up. It's like, yes or no. And if you didn't do it, or if you're not hitting the success metrics, it's not a blame game. It's saying like, okay, great, let's talk about it and figure out what we need to do to get it back on track. And also these agendas create a place to bring issues. So if you are stuck in a project, if you are experiencing a problem in your seat, you can bring that issue and the team will work on it together. So we've got really clear expectations in the scorecard, the success metrics. We've got everybody participating and engaging and coming proactively to bring their headlines. We've got complete transparency and ownership by having a clear-cut bullet point to-do list of what we said we'd do from last week. And we've got a space for people to autonomously and proactively bring issues to get the support that they need. And so that's everything that they need to do their job well. And at the end of the meeting, you can say, okay, break, take off, and like go do your job. Let us know if you need help. And there's no micromanagement or babysitting, because they know that that is the place to get all of the support they need in order to be successful in their role. And so it takes away all these, like, of course, you're still going to have conversations and offline meetings and stuff, but it takes away the constant back and forth in Slack, or the lack of clarity, or like the worrying of like, I haven't heard from Jason in 3 days. Do you think he's doing that thing that he said we'd do? Like, we're reaching the deadline, and so I better just check in, right? And so it takes all that away because it's just complete clarity and transparency, which creates a sense of ownership. You show up and you didn't do your thing, like, let's talk about it. Why?
Yeah.
But while you're looking at each other in the eye rather than Slack rage.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like one piece of that's important is the avoiding the blame game. Like,
Yeah.
because then you're encouraging that open dialogue and like troubleshooting without the worry that you're just reducing the fear of bringing up an issue, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this concept of leading from above the line. And so if you think there's like a line, If you're above the line, then you are open. You're assuming that everyone is coming in with positive intent. You are creative. You're solutions focused, and it's a lot easier to lead from above the line. When you're below the line, you're like closed. You feel like everyone's trying to screw you over. You just assume that people are slacking off, and you're more focused on the problems and solutions. And it's when you don't have that clarity and transparency and personal conversations, it's really easy to sink below the line, and then it's really hard not to feel like everyone's just screwing you over, right? But if you can just like take a moment and like as a leader bring yourself back above the line, it's a lot easier to ask questions that get people to feel safe enough to get to the root issue and communicate and articulate what they're struggling with.
Something else I wanted to touch on that I really like about you is, you know, you have kind of three big values that you like to operate under. Getting for a second out of the details or the operations and all the nitty gritty of this business growth slash freedom stuff, which is integrity, transparency, and partnership. Why are those three values so important to you?
Yeah, this is everything for me. I have contracts now, Michael, but for a long time I didn't even have contracts, because to me it's like, if you don't have the trust, then why do business together, And so contracts are just create clarity. They're only as good as the people that sign them. So it's good to like clarify and articulate those things, but trust is everything for me in business. So integrity for me is just doing what you say you're going to do. And it sounds so simple. It's so freaking rare to just find people that actually do what they say they're going to do, aren't just talking a big game and hoping that you won't notice, right? And so integrity is huge for me, because you got to be able to trust that someone's going to do what they promise, and that they're going to show up when they say they're going to show up, and that they're going to have your back when they have your back. So that's big. What was the other one? What's my other three values? Collaboration. Was that the other one?
Transparency and partnership are the
Transparency.
other
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Transparency, another big one, probably still goes back to trust. Like if you feel like you need to gatekeep information in your business, then like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, I understand there's certain things in business that you don't share with absolutely everyone in the team. You may not share like deep financial information or confidential information, but if we're gatekeeping and like trying to like silo pieces of the business, you're just cutting yourself off, and you're really doing yourself and your team a disservice as well. So transparency as much as possible with respecting like really confidential information, very important for me to be able to do my best work and to help you as much as I can. And then partnership, like I have been an entrepreneur for over 10 years, and I still have such a hard time applying or doing anything with any sort of W-2 role, not because it's like I can't like make them my full focus, but because it takes away all of this concept of partnership. When you like sign up as an employee, they own you, right? They're like, I'm the employer and you're the employee. When I work with someone as a freelancer or a contractor or a client, I see it as a partnership. I don't see like you pay me and I give you a thing. It's like, no, like let me treat this as if it's my business. And I think that's the only way that you're going to have significant results and like really have a good relationship, is if you treat it more like a partnership than a transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in a situation where you may come in as an equity partner and you are a literal partner, right?
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah. Then you're in.
it's
You better focus on partnership though.
yeah. Yeah. But just even having that mindset, for all different types of working situations is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, is there any specific stories that you're able and open or would like to share that of some of your favorite, people that you've worked with or businesses that you've helped, and just
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, I feel like my ride or die in the business world is Kevin Rogers from Copy Chief. That is my favorite client relationship I've ever had and partnership relationship I've ever had. So Kevin is a wonderful copywriter and marketer and freelance coach who built a company called Copy Chief, which Michael has been a part of as well. And it helps freelance copywriters learn how to build a successful business, get paid what they're worth, build a business of true freedom. And so Kevin was my business coach for years, and I couldn't help because of me. I seeing a gap in his offer stack. And so he was serving people at a really high level who were established freelancers who were overworking themselves, undercharging. And it was a really powerful program that helped them get paid what they're worth and be seen as an expert rather than a vendor. And it's a great program, the flagship program. So I started talking about my experience as a newer freelancer at the time, trying to get clients. And I was like, I think we could create structure around this and curriculum. And so because I already had the established relationship, we created an offer as a program called Escape Velocity for newer freelancers who needed to get their first clients and kickstart their freelancing business. And it was just like bonkers. It did so well because it was such a huge gap in the market at the time. And I think the most fun part of it for me was Kevin and I work really, really well together. We're truly like family. And even if I don't work with him directly anymore, we're like always in each other's corner. And so that relationship was just so powerful. And we were just complemented each other so well. And because I could see very clearly how his mind worked, I was able to like get on a call and interview him and then say like, great, leave it with me. And then we'd like close the call and I'd go like make a thing and come back and be like, look what I made. And it was like a whole curriculum or like a whole ascension model or like big tools that we used to like change our whole marketing. And it's just that the cohesiveness of the relationship made it a win-win, because for him, it was like, that was like the magic words. He to have someone like ask you questions for an hour on Zoom and then say like, okay, leave it with me, and come back with like your dream, right? Like all built out. Like that's like magic la la land, right? It doesn't really happen. And for me, it was just great because I always felt like I was winning because he was like such a charismatic leader and mature leader, and like had such great ideas and experience that it was really easy for me to create those things and implement because I didn't have to go anywhere else to get them. I could just milk Kevin for everything. And it made me lazy in a lot of ways because I was just like, oh, he just has everything in his brain. I just got to get it out. So to this day, I still love Kevin, and it's my favorite partnership ever. And we continue to support each other's businesses, but it taught me so much, so many lessons. And I learned a lot from him too.
Something you just said is so interesting because, you said it made you feel lazy, which is so strange for me to hear because it seems to everyone that the integrator operator person is the one doing the most hustling. So how did you see it in that way where, it's the visionary giving the vision that you're kind of like, you perceive that as like a lot of the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So let me clarify. I was hustling my ass off. Okay. Like I was working very hard. I think that it was the only way it could have worked because the integrator stuff was so intense. It was exhausting because you're the one, it's constant decision fatigue, and you're the one that has to have all the answers, and you're the buck stops with you. Like if there's a problem and no one else can fix it, it's your job, right? If the numbers aren't matching, it's your problem to figure out. And so it was very heavy. And so I don't think that I could have done that job and been a high performing creative marketer at the same time. And so the only way that I was able to produce all this great stuff is by having someone like Kevin who had such great vision and ideas and expertise that I could basically take that and just like reassemble it, right? I wasn't creating all this gold from scratch. And it was an evolution. Like when we created that first program together, I wasn't the integrator. It was very much evolved organically over the course of a year, where it just never made sense to stop going deeper into the relationship together.
Something tells me it has to do with your love of filling gaps.
I just love to fill the gaps. I see a gap and I'm like, let's just plug that one. Yeah, that was a lesson too, though. I burnt myself out there for a minute because I couldn't stop filling the gaps. And that was a big evolution for me as a professional and as an expert, is I had to learn how to not fill some gaps so that I can continue serving at a high level.
What do you think it is about your personality or your background that kind of that drives you to fill those gaps? Because there's a lot of people that they may learn one skill set or they approach a job or a client or a project with the mindset of, hey, I have my job and my role, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to call it a day. What do you
Yeah.
think it is that you're always wanting to do more, you're always wanting to add value?
Probably childhood trauma. People pleasing because I never felt like I was enough. No, that probably is a big root of it. This is something I've explored a lot of over the past few years because I was burnt out for a bit and I really had to explore like, why do I constantly need to fill the gaps and everything? And it is a people pleasing that's a big part of it. But also I work with people, I prefer to work with people and I work best with people where there's no cap. There's no limit to how much I can earn, how much we can grow. And the hunt excites me. Like I am past my days of doing like phone sales and stuff like that. Like I don't want to do that anymore, but I still have that same drive of like I constantly want to hunt and sell and like see how far we can reach. And so when I work with people where it's like, let's set this up so that we can grow together, I get fueled by doing more and more and more because it's like constantly building on each other. If I have a cap on my income or how I can grow, completely demotivated. And I will sit and be like, this is my job and I'm not doing nothing more. It's just like, this is a lesson for business owners. If you have rock stars, set them up to just get out of their way. Just set them up to grow and get out of their way. And they will build your business beyond their wildest dreams. But if you try to like corral them and cap them, you're really doing yourself a disservice and your business.
I love that. Yeah, it seems like that sort of no limits philosophy, just accelerates when it's multiple people with the same mindset,
Yeah.
and they're working towards something.
Yeah.
Just to go back for a second to the teams, because you just mentioned, rock stars. In the hiring process, because like you said, sometimes it's about remotivating the people that are already on the team. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
about bringing fresh talent in. How do you identify the right fit for business owners? Whether that's, again, it's about, implementing operators that are going to be able to let the business owner take their foot off the gas, or
Yep.
maybe even replace them, when in the future, if they want to exit.
Yeah. I hate to say it's like just like copy, like going back to copy, but it's like finding the root of what people really want. Like, what do they want? Like the thing that drives me the craziest when business owners like, I want someone who's really passionate about my business and our mission. It's like, motherfucker, nobody cares. It's your business. Nobody cares. They want the paycheck, but they also want other things. Like what fuels them, right? Like what makes them excited. For me, building stuff makes me excited. I will sit with tunnel vision for 4 hours and like build a new thing, whether it's like a lead magnet or a page or an email sequence. And like, I'll give like everything I have and leave it on the table. But if you make me sit and answer emails for more than 20 minutes, I'm freaking spent and I will want to tear my eyeballs out. You know what I mean? It's just like find out what fuels them and let them focus there. There's a great tool called GWC, which stands for get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. And so that's a good way to kind of start that process is say like, okay, we've got a really clear expectations and a map of where we're going. That's the most important part, right? Does this person get it? Did they get it? Like, do they understand what we're trying to do? And does it also excite them? Do they want it? Like, they may be really good at setting up Facebook ad campaigns, but does that make them want to tear their eyeballs out? Like, do they want to do this job? And then do they have the capacity to do it? And that's both the bandwidth and time, but also the skill set. Like, do they have the skills and the time and the bandwidth to do this? So that's a good place to start if you're not sure if someone's a good fit. And other than that, it's just, do they match your core values as a company? Yes or no? That's easy answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been really insightful. I want to jump just to the personal side here for a second. I know one of the things that kicked off, your entrepreneurship journey in general was the love of travel. What do you love about traveling? What are your favorite places you've been? What is it about that freedom that you love?
Yeah.
All that stuff. I'm curious.
So much. And I think it's changed over the years from what I focus on now when I travel. So first of all, food, like just off the table, like food's the greatest part about traveling.
Crispy
Um,
chicken.
crispy chicken, exactly. Not to be confused with smoky chicken, which is down the street in Chiang Mai. Both are great.
I don't
Um,
think I went there.
smoky chicken, soy 11. You can't miss it. It's like big plumes of barbecue smoke. And next
Mm.
time you're in town, you gotta check it out. Yeah, no, love the food, love meeting people, love seeing different perspectives. Like it's so hard when you go to a new country not to compare to where you're from, right? But there's like a term in the traveling community that it's not not better or worse, it's just different, right? And it's like once you can really sink into that, it's so fascinating, especially people like you and me who are just like alive to just explore the human condition. Like, and we don't mind sitting in awkwardness. We don't mind like doing things that make us a little uncomfortable. Like it's such a cool world. And there's so many cool people in it that think differently than we do. And from a professional perspective, one thing that I have learned that is like a superpower is not being in the same time zone as all the people you work with. So I love traveling for all of these personal reasons, but also I get like deep work time every single day when half my clients are sleeping for the first 4 hours of my day or whatever. You know what I mean? So like that is like a superpower and productivity and freedom. Like if I want to take off at 12 p.m. and go ride my motorbike around and find smoky chicken, like nobody's going to tell me no because everybody's sleeping. So it's just like you have when you're a people pleaser like me, it's really liberating to remove the guilt of not being available or like, ooh, am I like playing hooky when there's just nobody around? So it's great. That is just liberating and so brings so much peace and joy to my life.
Yeah, I love that too. When we were in Rome and Turkey, you know, those are pretty significantly ahead of, you know, the American time zones. And,
Yep,
you know, it's like, hey, I said I would get this to you on Friday, but you know, that means I can work, you know, Friday evening and I'm getting it to them on Friday
exactly.
morning, you know? And
Yep.
yeah, I love that stuff too.
Yeah, my number one tip is like go to a country that's ahead of your clients, not behind you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
because it could backfire against you with that
Yep.
way. You know, I remember waking up at 2 a.m. for a few calls in Bali one time, and
Yeah, I
yeah,
always
like,
feel like you're playing catch up, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, cool. So, what's next for you? You know, I know you've had an incredible journey so far, and you know now it's kind of you know you're transitioning into a bigger, better chapter. So, yeah,
Yeah.
what's going on next?
Yeah, two things for me. So, one, I bought a couple of properties here in Knoxville, where I'm currently based, and we're creating some rental properties, and that's my retirement plan, right? Like that's what it's going to allow me to continue to travel and not have to be on calls in certain time zones and things. So, working hard on that and having a blast doing it. And on the other side of things, I am really enjoying consulting with people in a partnership capacity, right? So it may not be equity partner, it may just be treating it as a partnership, but saying like, look, we're here, we want to go here. I'm not quite sure how to do it. Help me fill the gaps to get there. And let's just treat this as if we're sharing the business and we're both really invested and figure out how we can get there. And so it's so funny. I spent so much of my career niching down and trying to get super specific about what I do. And now I'm like, just tell me where it hurts and I'll help you figure it out. And I'm really enjoying that, just the challenge of it, all these sandboxes I get to play in. And yeah, it's been a blast. I'm loving the consulting and partnership aspect of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Something that just came to mind. It seems like, you know, you're somewhat of in a emergency medicine type of role, you know, you're kind of like the ER
Yeah.
doc.
Yep. Yeah, it makes me look really good when I come in with the antibiotics. So oh, I can fix that. I'll fix that in one shot. No worries.
That's awesome. Well, Rachel, really enjoyed the conversation as always. Where can people reach out to you and find you online?
Yeah, rachelmazza.com. Mazza is my name. That's probably the best place. Or just talk to Michael. He knows where I live.
Yeah, yeah. I'll point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Rachel, really appreciate it, and already looking forward to the next time that we can talk. And thanks for joining.
Me too. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks. Bye.